What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for Your Overwatch. Massive experimental card just went live today. Strap yourselves in because one of these changes is going to hit you like a truck. First up in the patch notes, Echo's audio has been reworked around from the perspective of the player against her. So now the passive hover sound is quieter, but the directionality for the hover and tri-shot weapon sounds are more clear. The devs say this is to try to get how far you can hear her in line with other footsteps of Overwatch characters. So the volume distance is reined in, but the directionality is more clear. Since Echo has abilities that insta-kill you, her ability to sneak up on you has a surprisingly large effect on her power level, so don't undersell this change at all. Next up, the developers rein in Genji. Damage for his shurikens goes down to 28, which is where it originally started at, and recovery, which affects his fire rate, also goes, I believe, back to 0.75 of a second. The devs say their goal with this is to rein him in a bit after a possible overcorrection when they buffed everything in his kit basically a patch ago, specifically with the goal of reducing some of his burst potential. This is definitely true, as this renewed damage value no longer makes it possible to right-click melee a target. You'll now need another action in there to complete that elimination, but also as well, multiple knock-on effects come off from this, where Genji's overall DPS, shield pressure, ultimate charge rate, all of these things are going down with the combination of both his damage and fire rate being decreased. Keeping in mind that he is retaining, of course, the ability to cancel reflect and the spread buff from the previous patch, so this new version of Genji is sort of a midway point between the extreme buffs that he saw previously and what he was before that. Next up, this one is a doozy. Moira is getting some outrageous power put into her kit. An incredible rework. So strong, I have no idea if this can function going to live. I'm a bit concerned, but we'll get to that. The first thing is the Biotic Grasp attach angle has been reduced by 37%. I was trying to recreate exactly what this means and struggled to do so. From what I can tell, it appears to require you to aim a bit closer to the target for it to attach properly, which seems to be a bit of a nerf in order to compensate for the rest of the powers they gave her. Biotic Orb now is quite the complicated ability, where its damage radius has been reduced from 4 meters to 3. The projectile slow when it finds a target has been increased, so it slows down a bit more than before to stick on a target, but now it's actually going to have damage range fall off where it otherwise didn't. Inside 1 meters, if it's directly hitting the target or up to a meter away, it's going to do 150 damage per second, which, come to think of it, that's kind of an outrageous number when you think of the entire context of the game of Overwatch. But in any case, outside of that first meter, from 1 to 3 meters, the damage is going to scale down significantly, where at 3 meters away, which is the farthest it can connect anyway, it's going to drop down to 25 damage per second, which is nothing. Okay, so the major difference of this is the old version of the orb was incredibly consistent, where at 4 meters of range, massive, you can toss it across the entire team comp, it will do a consistent 50 damage per second only, up to a maximum of 200 overall damage. Now, if you directly lay it on a target, it will do 150 damage in a second, okay? 3 times better than before. It will still max out at 200 damage, but as we all know, burst damage is king in Overwatch, so having all your damage now on a target you're directly putting it on means that Moira in a duel is packing more punch than before. Yes, her Biotic Grasp might be a little bit harder to aim now, but the orb's dueling potential is outrageously better, by leaps and bounds in my opinion. They nerfed its ability to be laid out at range across the team fight, hitting everything like it was used before, but now this thing is like Brigitte stun combos levels of scary in terms of fighting a support and just instantly dying to them. You will find that the orb's personality now, because it has that shorter range, feels a bit inconsistent. So in testing, I wasn't able to always get the orb in the sweet spot, but I think with a little bit of practice, Moira, quote, skill orbs will seek and destroy in duels and be one of the stronger damage abilities in the game. And the funny thing is, this isn't the most outrageous buff they're attempting with Moira. The next one is possibly even stronger than this one. Fade now will phase out all allies within 6 meters as well as herself for 1 second after exiting Fade. So there is a bit of a delay to this where it's as you exit the Fade. So you yourself dodge, then you come out of it, then it applies essentially a wraith form to your allies within 6 meters. But as we've already said, burst abilities are king in Overwatch. This ability essentially gives Moira Fade Batiste Immortality Field's level of value on cooldown, and that was already considered an ability that's like an ultimate. So think of some of the biggest impact ultimates in the game. Genji Blade, Gravitic Flux, Zarya's Graviton Surge. Now, on a 6-second cooldown, you can phase you and your team out of those things and become untargetable. I would go into depth on why this is so outrageously strong in total, but I think I'm going to wait to see if this actually goes to live, because right now, from the looks of it, this is the most outrageous set of support buffs we've ever seen since like Mercy getting the Moth meta rework. The good news is they're trying to make Moira a bit more skillful in multiple regards. The bad news is it's not so skillful that any of these plays would be hard to recreate easily and repeatedly, in my opinion. There's no way that this can go to live. It's completely broken. Now, from a mechanics standpoint, I think it's incredibly interesting that they're attempting some more complicated MOBA-esque type abilities into the game. Fading out your team could be like an ultimate, but having it on cooldown is actually insane. But let's take a look at what the devs have to say. The main goal of the Moira changes is to give players a chance to make bigger plays and flex their player's skill. Biotic Orb damage is now generally harder to hit all enemies in a large area, but will now reward well-aimed shots with significantly increased damage per second. The Fade change is intended to directly offer Moira players a chance to make big plays and potentially turn a fight around single-handedly if used well. For example, Moira can now fade allies to save them against big ultimates such as Self-Destruct or Graviton Surge. Yeah, you know, like Lucio Sound Barrier, right? That ultimate that saves you from those other ultimates. They go on to say you can also fade an ally that has already been pinned by Reinhardt to force them to be released, saving them. There are many powerful uses of the new Fade effect. We're looking forward to seeing how players use it. Yeah, I mean, all this is just incredibly powerful. The problem I have with this is that none of this from Moira is significantly harder than before. She straight up just is stronger than before. Massive buffs across the board with very little extra skill required, which I think is just not a good idea at all. Well, guys, it's everything for our look at this experimental card. Let us know your thoughts on this, frankly, insane Moira rework in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out. Let us know that you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and hit the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos go live. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for Your Overwatch. We'll see you guys next time.